They only needed you because you were there. Not because they saw your soul, not because they valued your wisdom, but because you were available. And availability, that unconscious need to always be present, always respond, always show up for people who would never do the same for you. That was the leash. The illusion of connection was never love. It was control. You thought you were being loyal, being kind, being good. But underneath that kindness was fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of being left behind. But let me tell you something most will never say out loud. They didn't value you. They used your access. And when you finally pull back, not out of vengeance, not out of bitterness, but out of clarity, everything changes. Because people don't just love the real you. They love what you do for them. And when the doing stops, the truth starts speaking. That silence, it's not empty. It's revelation. That distance, it's not cold. It's clean. Because when you stop being available to the chaos, the noise, the people who only come to feed, you start being available to yourself. And that's the beginning of everything. They call it selfish. They said you've changed. And you have, because availability isn't love, it's currency in dysfunctional systems. Your time, your energy, your emotional labor, they were trading it like it cost you nothing. But every yes you gave them was a no to yourself. And you knew it. You felt the fractures. You smiled with tired eyes. You gave while your soul starved. You performed connection while your identity eroded. Why? Because you were taught that being a good person meant being reachable. But no one told you that being reachable makes you penetrable, accessible to every manipulation, every projection, every draining encounter. You were a healer for people who never wanted to be whole. You were a mirror for people who broke you every time they couldn't face their own reflection. You want truth? Here's truth. Most people don't want your depth. They want your silence while they stay shallow. And the moment you start speaking like someone who knows who they are, you become a threat. So be it. There is a psychological breaking point, a moment where the inner self says, no more. No more giving without return. No more shrinking to fit. No more explaining your worth. Carl Jung called it individuation. The return to the self. The departure from the false roles you played to survive. And this is your return. You're no longer available to the person who only calls when their life is burning. You're no longer available to the friend who disappears the second you need them. You're no longer available to the old version of you who begged for approval. Because that old version was never you. It was a mask, a program, a survival instinct born from a world that punishes the authentic and rewards the obedient. But not anymore. You're not a servant to your past. You're not a slave to the expectations others projected onto you. You are no longer renting out your life to people who don't pay the price of respect. When you stop being available, you stop leaking energy. And when energy stops leaking, power returns. Power doesn't scream. It doesn't chase. It doesn't beg. Power is presence without apology. It's the calm in your eyes when you say, I don't do that anymore. It's the space between their need and your boundary. It's the breath you take before choosing silence over explanation, because you don't owe them your access. You owe yourself your peace. And peace, true peace, doesn't come from managing other people's comfort. It comes from honoring your inner truth. That's the thing about transformation. It's loud inside. It's silent outside. You will lose people. You will scare people. You will disappoint people who were only loyal to your dysfunction. But hear this. Losing them is not a loss. It's alignment. The ones who stay, they see you. The ones who leave, they never did. This is not about becoming cold. It's about becoming clear. Clear on what you will no longer tolerate. Clear on what you truly deserve. Clear on what your energy is worth. Clear on what your soul is here to build. Because the moment you decide that your peace, your focus, your time are non-negotiable, the entire game changes. People adjust or they disappear. And either outcome is a blessing, so be unavailable, be unreachable to drama, be inaccessible to chaos, and watch how life opens to you like a kingdom, once locked behind your own need for approval. Because the minute you stop being available to what drains you, you become magnetic to what builds you. Good. Now that you've withdrawn from the noise, now that the false connections are falling away, you stand at the edge of something most people never dare face. Clarity. Not the romantic kind. Not the kind painted in pretty affirmations or whispered during guided meditations. Real clarity is violent at first. It tears through illusions. It destroys the scaffolding of identities you didn't choose but wore to survive. It rips away the comfort you used as a shield and replaces it with a mirror. And in that mirror, you meet the one person you've been avoiding. You. No roles, no masks, no people to impress. Just the truth. The truth about where you've been hiding. The truth about how you betrayed yourself to be liked. The truth about all the time you spent trying to earn what should have been freely given respect, love, acknowledgement. Clarity is not a peaceful awakening. It's a confrontation. But if you survive it, you realize it's not the world you needed to fix it. Was your agreement with mediocrity. Because for most of your life, your vision was hijacked. Not stolen. Hijacked. By teachers who told you to be realistic. By partners who punished your ambition. By systems that taught you to trade purpose for approval. You see it now, don't you? That everything they said was safe was actually a cage. And now that the fog is cleared, you're no longer available to the small life they prepared for you. You're building something they can't comprehend. Vision is not about seeing what is. It's about becoming the one who creates what doesn't yet exist. You don't find your vision. You choose it. You declare it. You design it. You discipline yourself to live inside of it before the world even sees it. That's where most people fail. They wait to believe until others believe in them. They wait to act until the applause comes. But applause is not confirmation, it's a side effect. You must build in silence. You must believe without evidence. You must walk like your feet. Know the way even when the map is blank. Vision isn't a picture. It's an identity, a frequency, a contract with your future that says, no matter what, I become this. And anything that doesn't align becomes invisible to you. Because now that you're unavailable to chaos, you're available to creation. But let's talk about what fuels that creation. Discipline, not the shallow version sold in productivity books, not wake up at 5 a.m. and drink cold water. I'm talking about the kind of discipline that hurts, the kind that demands death, death of your distractions, death of your comfort, death of the self that talks a big game and delivers nothing. Discipline is spiritual war. It's a covenant you make with yourself and keep, even when it's raining, even when you're tired, even when nobody claps for you. It's a practice of becoming undeniable. Every day, every hour, it is refusing to negotiate with the part of you that would rather scroll, complain, or pretend it's not time yet. Discipline whispers, now. Discipline moves when motivation sleeps. Discipline is proof of belief. Because if you really believed in your vision, you'd show up for it, like your life depends on it, because it does. So ask yourself, are you disciplined or just interested? Now, let's go deeper, because beneath every disciplined action lies the root of all transformation. Belief, not the belief you post online, not the belief you recite like a script. I'm talking about the belief that lives in your spine, the one that moves you before words can form, the one that shapes your posture, your tone, your eyes. That belief, it's not something you learn, it's something you reclaim, because it was always there, buried under shame, buried under comparison, buried under the scars of a world that taught you to doubt before you even had a dream. But belief is not about external permission. It's about remembrance. Remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. Remembering what you dreamed about before they gave you a job description. Remembering the sound of your own voice before you learned to censor it for approval. Belief is a bridge between where you are and where you're meant to be. And every time you doubt yourself, every time you apologize for your power, every time you hesitate because you fear being too much, you burn a piece of that bridge. But belief rebuilds it, quietly, daily, unapologetically. You are not here to survive this life. You are here to transcend it. And to transcend, you must face what every powerful soul has faced: resistance, rejection, and the slow burning silence of doing the work without applause. This is where most people fall. They want ease. They want instant. They want results without resistance. But let me tell you a secret. The resistance is the invitation. The resistance is the threshold between you and your next level. It is the test that says, how bad do you want it? How deep are your roots? Will you bend or will you bloom? Don't resent resistance. Don't run from it. Welcome it like the teacher it is, because the sharper the resistance, the clearer the path. And now that you're no longer available to the distractions that once diluted your destiny, you can finally feel what was always waiting on the other side of your sacrifice. Power, not the kind I give you, the kind you become. Good. Now that you're no longer bleeding energy into people, habits, and stories that never deserved you, you'll notice something strange. The world gets louder, but your soul gets quieter. And in that stillness, you meet the next force you must master: resilience, not toughness, not ego, not pretending like nothing affects you. Real resilience, the kind that bends without breaking, the kind that transforms pain into purpose, not performance, the kind that holds eye contact with suffering and says, I'm still here. Resilience isn't built in victory. It's forged in silence, in failure, in abandonment. It's carved into your bones in the nights no one sees when you choose not to quit. When the world says give up, and you whisper back, watch me. Resilience is not pride, it's root. It's knowing who you are beneath all the layers they tried to bury you under. It's knowing that your identity doesn't collapse with circumstance. Because the resilient don't bounce back. They bounce forward. They don't rebuild the old. They reinvent the self. You've been through storms that would have killed lesser versions of you. And you didn't just survive. You alchemized. So stand tall, not because it's easy, but because it's earned. Now that you've remembered your root, let's talk about the one thing that will keep you alive in a world that keeps changing: adaptability. Those who refuse to change die slowly, not always in body, but in relevance, in influence, in purpose. You can't outrun evolution. You can't hide in comfort, because life doesn't reward the most rigid. It rewards the most responsive, the ones who can pivot without panic, who can let go of what's outdated without mourning its false safety. Jung called it integration. To take all parts, the known and the unknown, the light and the shadow, and bring them into wholeness. That's adaptability. It's when you can change environments without losing yourself. When you can lose a job, a partner, a reputation, and still walk in truth. Because truth is not a role, it's not a title. Truth is who you are when all else is stripped away. Adaptable people don't fear change. They initiate it because they know the soul is not static. It's alive, it's unfolding, it's rewriting. Let the rigid break. You bend like fire bends the wind. You move like water. You evolve like the soul that's no longer chained to survival, but to evolve, to adapt, to transcend. You must become a learner, not a consumer of information, a student of life, a student of every failure, every betrayal, every breakdown, because life doesn't teach through textbooks. It teaches through friction. And if you're always offended by the lesson, you'll never grow from the wisdom. Learn from your silence. Learn from your triggers. Learn from your own patterns that repeated not because life hates you, but because you weren't ready to outgrow them yet. Learning requires humility. The kind of humility that says, I don't know everything, but I know I will become who I must become. And that's the real difference between the lost and the becoming. One reacts, the other learns. One gets stuck in stories, the other rewrites them. One needs validation to grow, the other just grows, regardless. So ask yourself, are you just watching the world, or are you studying yourself? Because if you truly study yourself, you'll reach the moment every seeker finds. The moment when it all returns full circle. The moment when the storms calm and you finally see the truth that was waiting under it all. You were never broken. You were buried under expectations, under conditioning, under roles and routines and rules that were never yours. And now you're done being available to them. You're no longer reachable by the old patterns. You've stopped picking up calls from the past. You blocked the frequencies that used to manipulate you with guilt, shame, or false love. And now that you're unavailable to them, you're completely available to yourself. And that's where the climax begins. When you stop being available, you stop participating in your own diminishment. You stop giving the best of you to the worst of them. You stop showing up for people who disappear when it's your turn to bleed. You stop pretending that peace must come at the price of your presence. Because the highest form of presence is not just being in the room. It's being in alignment with your values, your purpose, your vision, your truth, your healing, your evolution. This world will try to distract you, convince you to settle, tempt you to re-enter the cages you broke out of. But here's what they won't tell you. You become untouchable. The moment you realize you don't owe anyone the version of you they created in their own image. You were not born to be understood. You were born to be real. You were not born to stay accessible to energy that weakens you. You were born to protect the frequency that builds you. So protect it. Protect your time like it's sacred. Protect your mind like it's sovereign. Protect your presence like it's priceless. Because it is. The more unavailable you are to the wrong things, the more magnetic you become to the right ones. Peace arrives. Power stabilizes. Vision sharpens. Alignment deepens. And suddenly, you're not chasing anymore. You are chosen by the life that always had your name on it. Because when you stop being available to what's beneath you, you rise quietly, unapologetically, irrevocably. And in that rising, you finally meet the version of you they could never break, never buy, and never silence. The real you, the whole you, the free you. And once you meet that version, everything changes.